It's The Log. I'm Charles Purcell, and it's time for This Week in History. And to explore This Week in History, I'm joined by your favorites and mine, Uncle Chuck and Chucky Bucky, collectively known as Chuck and Chucky. Well, hello there, Charles Purcell. This Week in History.
Yep.
It's my favorite segment.
Good.
Oh, gosh, me too. I just love it. This Week in History. Here we go.
Okay, boys. That's right.
Okay, then.
All right, let's do it. This Week in History, October 3rd. Here we go. 1995.
Simpson, would you please stand and face the jury? Mrs. Robertson.
Superior Court of California, County of Los Angeles, in the matter of the people of the state of California versus Orenthal James Simpson, case number BA097211. We, the jury, in the above entitled action, find the defendant Orenthal James Simpson not guilty of the crime of murder in violation of Penal Code Section 187A, a felony upon Nicole Brown Simpson, a human being, as charged in count 1 of the information. Superior Court of the State of California, County of Los Angeles, in the matter of the people of the State of California versus Orenthal James Simpson. We, the jury, in the above entitled action, find the defendant Orenthal James Simpson not guilty of the crime of murder in violation of Penal Code Section 187A, a felony upon Ronald Lyle Goldman, a human being, as charged in count 2 of the information.
O.J. Simpson acquitted in the killings of Nicole Brown Simpson and Ronald Goldman. The former football player had been accused of murdering his ex-wife and her friend on June 13, 1994. The high-profile case and the subsequent trial of Simpson captured widespread media and public attention in the United States and around the world. Yeah, that was quite a time. We're old enough to remember this. Well, sure, we were around for this. And we won't go back, of course, and relitigate the whole trial itself. It was very exciting. But I think the main thing that came out of this was just the way America dealt with things. I suppose there were times in the past, the Lindbergh kidnapping and things like that grabbed everyone's attention. So sometimes we lose our historical perspective. We think we're going through it for the first time. But for a lot of us, this felt like the first time. It felt like something new.
It feels like the first time.
The way the media was covering it.
Feels like the very first
The way we all sort of took sides and we argued about it, and it was just the only thing going on. Yeah, that's true, isn't it?
Oh, sure. And, the iconic images and events and characters that came out of this, from the white Bronco, right, and the slow police chase.
Yes, left lane, currently left lane. You can see other traffic there with the vehicle.
Talk about iconic.
Yeah.
And then, who is his weird little actor friend who stayed at his house? Judge Ito was the judge.
Now, counsel, I realize that we're all tired and we wish this were over sooner than later, but this kind of petty bickering is not appropriate.
No, who's the guy I'm thinking of?
That was
He
Cato.
had Wisconsin ties, too.
That was Cato Kalin.
Oh, right, yeah, Cato Kalin.
OJ hungry, he wants a snack.
Cato come living OJ home.
So Cato drive him to get Big Mac.
Oh, yeah, he was just like this. Oh, what a character he was. And then, of course, he went on to, have a whole life as a famous person.
Fame and spotlight, what Cato loved.
A celebrity. He went on to do other things.
Reality shows. And,
Yeah, he was born right here in Milwaukee. He's a Milwaukee guy.
Oh, was he? I didn't know that.
I went out to California to be an actor. And anyway, so there's the Cato Kalin thing. And Judge Ito.
And if you heard the snickering of the jurors as they were going out, they thought it was pretty silly, too.
And, of course, so all the lawyers.
If it doesn't fit, you must acquit.
I remember when the verdict was handed down on that fateful October 3rd day when he was acquitted. I was alone in my house. It was midday, I guess, maybe late morning. And I was watching because it was just about to come down, and here my doorbell rings. And, well, hell, I can't answer my door now. It was just about to happen. So I run to the door, I swing it open, I say, come in, it's happening. And it was a UPS delivery person wanting my signature for a package.
Please stand and face the jury.
And I didn't have time for that. I just said, come on in. And she came in, and we watched it together.
We, the jury, in the above
And she didn't seem to really care. She thought I was being kind of silly.
Simpson, not guilty of the crime of murder.
So then we watched it, the verdict, and of course I reacted as we all did with great shock and surprise, and it was just quite a thing. It was quite a moment, and I shared it with this UPS delivery person, and she said, okay, you done now? Can we do this? All right, so I signed for the package, and she goes on her way.
So what was in the package? Do you remember?
No, you know what? I don't. That would make for a better story. I should make something up. Well, sure you should. You should make something up good, and that would make for a better story then.
Hey, why'd you refuse then? Everybody loves a package.
I don't know. It was weird. Crazy printing. I don't know who it's from.
So what do you think? It's a bomb?
It's not totally impossible.
So October 3rd, 1995. Help me do the math. Well, let's see here. So that was, 24 years ago. So next year will be the 25th anniversary.
Right.
We'll have to make some plans.
Oh, sure.
And spend a little time on that. So it's This Week in History. Next up, October 5th, 1969. 50 years ago this week. Monty Python's Flying Circus makes its debut. The British sketch comedy series lasted for a year on the British Broadcasting Corporation, BBC.
Only a year?
Only a year? I guess I didn't realize that. Yeah. The show was a commentary on daily life in Britain and had several recurring themes and characters played by Eric Idle, Graham Chapman, John Cleese, Michael Palin, Terry Gilliam, and Terry Jones. So what are you reading there? Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't give credit, did I? It's timeanddate.com. It gives you a nice list if you're ever curious. Well, the reason I ask is commentary on daily life. I don't know. I suppose so. I think it was mostly sort of absurdist. Don't know if I agree with their description there. Yeah, I would agree with that. Let's see. The sketches are often thought to have had a strong influence on television comedy around the world.
Oh, yes, I would agree with that. Absolutely, sure.
Yeah.
You know, my high school buddies and I went to see, in 1974, I think it was. Do you remember the movie Groove Tube?
Just you.
It was the first time we saw Chevy Chase, and there were a couple of other kind of Saturday Night Live people. Of course, that's before. Then Saturday Night Live debuted like the next year. But Groove Tube was like this sketch comedy kind of thing, and this satire parody about television. And that was funny and crazy. But I bring that up because I agree. Monty Python really just changed television comedy forever to this day, right?
Well, I would agree with that as well, sure. And I remember Groove Tube. That was very funny. The Uranus Corporation.
Brown 25. Another fine product from Uranus.
And what's the name of the actor? The fella who's now very familiar to everybody. Oh, gosh, now, what was his name? He played on one of those SVU shows or something, one of those cop shows.
Belzer.
Yeah, Richard Belzer.
What's his name? Richard Belzer. He plays the president.
I'm in the driver's seat. I run the show. I'm the f***ing president.
Which is really funny. He's just this totally, talk about predicting the future or whatever. He's like totally crude, and he's sexually harassing the Prime Minister of India. He's grabbing her boobs and stuff.
Thank you, Mr. President. You're wonderful. You know that? You're really something. I'm really going to take you. You're really going to like America. America's going to be your favorite country.
So hats off to Monty Python.
They did. They changed the world of comedy.
And of course they went on to make several movies. We all know, all of our favorites. Meaning of Life and Life of Brian.
Of course. And Camelot. What am I thinking of there?
I fart in your general direction.
Holy Grail, Monty Python.
Right, Holy Grail. And they changed comedy. Oh my goodness. Because then, like we mentioned, Groove Tube and then Saturday Night Live and everything that came since on sketch comedy and improv sort of really took off. Thanks to them.
Hey, speaking of Saturday Night Live, last week was the season premiere.
Saturday Night Live.
Did you guys see it? Oh, sure, I never miss it. Saturday Night Live is an institution. People who criticize it and say it's not funny anymore, I think they're just, I don't know. I don't agree. I think it's still what they call essential viewing.
Oh yeah, I watched it for sure. Woody Harrelson was the was the guest host, and I tell you the truth, I wasn't too impressed. I think it wasn't very funny.
Oh,
but you know, they hit and they miss. But I was kind of disappointed. I would think that on the very first show of the season, they got the whole dang summer to work on it. You know, let's give us a good show.
Yeah, I would agree. I was disappointed as well. Nothing big or memorable came out of that show, except I will say the biggest thing that a lot of people might not have known. It was announced only a few weeks ago that Leslie Jones was leaving the show, so she was not there. That's right, Leslie Jones, kaput, gone off to do other things. God bless her. I hope she has nothing but the greatest success. She's off doing other projects. I don't know what they are, but I read somewhere that she's producing and going to be featured in some new projects.
Yeah, good for her. I think, did you guys like her on SNL?
Oh, no, she was terrible on Saturday Night Live. I think she was just the worst thing ever. A lot of people liked her. Yeah, a lot of people loved her. But I agree. I think she was just horrendous on that show. She you know what she did do? She gave a voice that the show needed.
I am very comfortable with who I am. I am an open book. I keep my porn in a folder labeled porn. If you want to see Leslie Jones naked, just ask.
See, that's the thing about comedy. When you break it down,
Humor is a cloudy wonderland thing.
number one, first and foremost, it has to be funny, right? Okay, we all agree.
But simple and clear as the blue, blue sky.
But when you really break down comedy and its role in society, it should have some sort of unique voice. Every performer should bring something to the table. And I'll give Leslie Jones credit. She brought a voice, her own unique persona, point of view, and I think that was valuable. But the problem was, at least I never found her funny for 1 second. Nothing she did was funny.
You didn't laugh.
I was waiting for the funny part.
I would have to agree, and I always kind of kept quiet about that because, you know, we're all white guys and we always get into this. I think maybe there was something that, because I didn't find her funny either, so all three of us agree we didn't find her funny. But, you know, I kind of kept quiet about it because, you know, I'm probably missing something.
That was the funny part.
Well, you see, the thing is,
Yeah, I know. You're waiting for the funny part.
You know, I'm not going to criticize people for finding her funny, like saying, oh, you're wrong, she's not funny. No, I'm saying strictly that I didn't find her funny. And as you've talked about before, I think we've talked about before, when sometimes you just got to admit that you're missing something.
Yeah.
Okay, I was missing it. And you guys too?
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. I was, and I have talked about this very thing before. I was missing something. I just didn't get her at all.
You missed the funny part.
No, I didn't either. And I'm glad she's gone from Saturday Night Live. I think she was a detriment to the show. I think she wasn't funny. I think she was even the people who like her, okay? Even the people who like Leslie Jones and think she's funny, I think would admit she was terrible in the sketches.
Right.
She's not at all equipped. That's not in her wheelhouse to do sketch comedy. She would blow her lines and she would just, you know, she was just not good at all. She looked stiff and not natural and just didn't have good comedic timing for that sort of thing. As I say, even the people who love her, I think would agree that she was terrible in the sketches.
Yeah.
Right. You know, people say the same thing about Pete Davidson, but I'm a fan of Pete Davidson. Again, I think he brings a voice. I think he brings something unique to the table. But I also think he's damn funny.
Well, he's also pretty bad in the sketches, you have to admit, sometimes.
Well, that's the funny part.
Yeah, I guess I would admit that, but I don't know. He's making me laugh.
And I don't know.
Well, yeah, that might be my white thing again. He's a white guy. I'm a white guy. Somehow I relate better to him, and because some people just can't stand Pete Davidson.
Yeah. So there you go.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, Saturday Night Live.
Anyway,
essential viewing still.
Sure.
It's This Week in History. We got off on that because we were. It's 1969, the 50th anniversary. That's a big deal.
Yeah.
50th anniversary of Monty Python's Flying Circus on the BBC and its influence on television comedy.
Not dead yet. Hey, before we get off SNL, boy, the last couple weeks before they got into the new show, they were showing the repeats. Oh, John Mulaney. That man is a funny guy. Oh, holy cow. You kidding me?
Yep, I agree.
I bring him up because I'm just telling you, John Mulaney, man.
Yeah.
When the time comes for Lorne Michaels to retire, I vote for let's get a movement going. John Mulaney's got to take over as executive producer of Saturday Night Live.
Oh, there you go.
And just keep that job for the next 40 years. Oh, we'll be in for a treat. John Mulaney's a comedic genius.
I would agree. I think he's a very funny guy, and he's wacky, and he's weird, he's absurdist. I tell you, my favorite.
Oh, I know what you're gonna say.
Oh, yeah, you bet. That's right. The Bodega. Yeah. The musical, the Bodega of Love. Yeah. Was the name of that sketch.
Oh, right, the Bodega where Pete Davidson and the whole cast is in on that, and it's a big musical numbers and the Bodega of Love. Sure.
Brilliant. That was brilliant. Yeah. I think I posted at the time that should be made into a full-blown Broadway musical. Right? Bodega of Love. Yeah, that's a good Chucky Bucky. That's a great idea. John Mulaney, executive producer, when Lorne Michaels retires, and Lorne Michaels is an old guy. He can retire anytime. That'd be fine if John Mulaney takes over. This Week in History. It's The Log. I'm Charles Burcell. All right, it's This Week in History with Chuck and Chucky along for the ride. What have I got next? October 5th, 1962, James Bond makes his theatrical debut. The fictional British spy with codename 007 was featured on the big screen for the first time in Dr. No, based on the 1958 Ian Fleming novel of the same name. The movie starred Sean Connery as James Bond. Are you guys big Bond fans? No?
No, me neither. I don't give a hoot. I don't care about James Bond for nothing. It's a big deal, though. It's a big deal for a lot of people. It goes on, and is Idris Elba going to be a Bond? That was all the big thing.
Yeah.
Or they're going to have a female James Bond.
All right.
Oh, yes. It's, they just keep it. They keep the franchise going, I guess. Good for them. I'm not much on the Hollywood movies anymore.
Well, that's right. When I was a kid, I suppose, I saw the first few Bond films, and everybody loves Sean Connery, and many to this day will say he remains the only James Bond, the best in their mind. So 1962 was the very first.
Yep.
Huh? Okay.
But, yeah, I don't care.
No, I don't really care either. But it's a big cultural thing, and some people care a lot about it. I've lost my love for Hollywood movies long ago.
Oh yeah, I don't even watch them. I haven't watched them for years. I only watch snooty movies.
Snooty movies?
Yeah, snooty movies like foreign films and classics and independents and weird stuff.
Oh, all right, okay, I'm with you. Yeah, I love snooty movies. Yeah, me too. Yeah, we don't need Hollywood really anymore. They can just go away. Let's just watch snooty movies. I agree. Yeah, okay, I'm with you, boys. This week in history, October 5th, 1947.
I'm confident that we'll have the support of every American.
First televised presidential speech in the United States.
The situation in Europe is grim and forbidding.
Harry Truman, the 33rd president of the U.S., called on Americans to use less grain to help Europe, which was still reeling from the effects of the Second World War. He asked people to avoid eating meat on Tuesdays and eggs and poultry on Thursdays, and to consume one less slice of bread every day. Well, there you go. The first televised presidential speech, 1947. Wow.
Well, that was pretty interesting subject matter for that speech. It reminds me of Jimmy Carter's so-called malaise speech.
All right, of course.
Yeah.
When was that? 1979, I think it was? Yes.
Yeah, I think so.
Sure. He never used the word malaise. One of the more famous televised presidential speeches. Never used the word malaise. That was just pinned on by his critics afterwards. He was just asking us to be decent human beings and to be good to each other.
It is time for us to join hands in America. Let us commit ourselves together to a rebirth of the American spirit, working together with our common faith. We cannot fail.
And the speech wasn't all about energy crisis. That was an earlier speech where he's asking us to conserve energy because of the so-called, what they called at the time, the energy crisis. And then, of course, he put solar panels on the White House roof. And Jimmy Carter was a good guy who we never gave him a chance. We gave him the bum's rush. And then, of course, in comes Ronald Reagan with all of his promises and his silliness.
There you go again.
He had his own version of Make America Great Again. The shining city on the hill, and just, unions be damned and conservation be damned and the energy crisis be damned. Let's just all be big Americans riding high in the saddle. And, of course, he had his own. Every president since that 1947 first speech, every president since has had big televised speeches. Oh, sure, you could go down the list from 1947 to today. John Kennedy's Ask Not What Your Country Can Do For You.
Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
I'm not a crook.
Because people have got to know whether or not their president's a crook. Well, I'm not a crook.
Sure, you could go on and on. There's plenty of famous speeches.
Yeah.
And now, of course, we got this joker who's going to be impeached, and that's good. Finally, are we going to talk about that this week?
No, I think everybody else is covering that pretty well. We'll weigh in when we have something unique to say.
Oh, okay.
My little credo. If it's not being said and it needs to be said, will I try to say it? Oh, sure, that's your credo there, Charles Purcell. Well, everything's being said pretty well by a lot of different people. When we find something that's not being said, we'll say it.
So anyway, this the Joker in the White House now, who's being impeached, he's had his share of television moments, and they're pretty sad and despicable and pathetic.
You are fake news.
So, the whole relationship between television and the presidency, for better or for worse, mostly for worse, I'd say.
Yeah.
But anyway, 1947, huh?
Yep.
Truman.
Yep. There you go. Nothing left. Nothing else to say about this? No, I guess not. It's if we were, I guess if we had something to say, we'd say it. Just good riddance to this guy. I hope he's impeached soon. I'm sure he will be, and he'll be gone, and that'll be good. And we'll life will be better. All right, let's continue with This Week in History. October 6, 1989. Bette Davis died. American actress. Oh, Bette Davis, what a talent. One of the greats. She's got, I don't know where you put her. 1, 2, 3, or 4. Top 5 for sure. Maybe the number 1. Right up there with Katharine Hepburn. And I don't know who else you'd put in that list. I mean, just especially of the classic era. if you include all time, maybe she's still there in the top 1 or 2 or 3. She was amazing.
Oh, Betty Davis. She was pretty good there.
Yeah, yeah.
What was her big line from that one movie? Fasten your seatbelts, gonna be a bumpy ride.
Oh, right.
There's our trivia.
What?
Here's your trivia for today. What movie was that line from?
Oh, let me say that was I know this one. It was All About Eve. That's right. All About Eve. Yep. Where Betty Davis plays an aging Broadway star, and Eve is her assistant, kind of dresser, and winds up being her understudy and then a star in her own right. And Marilyn Monroe plays a small part in that movie, one of her early movies. And there's a party scene where all this kind of drama and jealousy is simmering under all the friendly party talk. And Betty Davis delivers the famous line,
"Fasten your seatbelts. It's going to be a bumpy night."
So good for Betty Davis. Of course, she had those amazing eyes. She had Betty Davis eyes, right? The song, of course.
Oh, yeah, sure.
And yeah, she deserves a mention.
Yep.
So in 1989, she died. And a long career too.
Yeah.
Started very, very early when she was, the beautiful young ingenue, but then her whole career, she just went on to play the most interesting parts, and even well into her, older years. She was very active, and good for her, right?
Yeah. Sure. Oh, my goodness. Whatever happened to Baby J?
Oh, man.
I can't even watch it. It's too disturbing.
Oh, I know what you mean.
It's excellent. Yeah. But there's some movies that are just hard to watch because they're too good.
Right.
They're too real and disturbing. And sure, I really couldn't. She was 81. I'm looking this up. She was 81 when she passed away. October 6th, 1989. Betty Davis, one of the greats.
Yep.
Thanks, Betty. It's This Week in History. I'm joined by Chuck and Chucky.
Hey there, hi there, ho there.
October 7, 2001. The war in Afghanistan begins. Oh, God. Do we have to talk about this? American and British troops began airstrikes against al-Qaeda and Taliban targets after the Taliban refused to hand over Osama bin Laden, the mastermind of the September 11, 2001 terrorist attacks. Nicknamed Operation Enduring Freedom,
oh, jeez.
The military strikes were part of the so-called global war on terror. This just makes me angry and sad. And, well, sure, I don't blame you. Oh, my goodness. There's no way to just be flippant about this. Of course, the war in Afghanistan continues. America's longest war, most ridiculous war, most pointless war.
You're right. You guys are right. This is just sad. This is just sad and pathetic and horrible.
Yeah.
This whole Afghanistan war. And it's not like even just hindsight. I can tell you right now, I will tell you that I was never for this war from the very beginning. Of course, I'm not alone. A lot of people weren't. But, it was just one of the biggest mistakes, most tragic mistakes this country ever made, was sending troops and going full out, war battle stuff in response to 9/11. It was just not the thing to do.
And you can get in a lot of trouble for saying that even today. Saying it at the time, I don't know how vocal you guys were. I'm trying to remember now, but I remember at the time when I was offering that opinion and just being, oh my goodness, the reaction from people. They were furious with me, calling me a traitor.
Yeah.
It's like, no. I'm not justifying the attack on the towers and the Pentagon. I'm not saying there aren't bad people out there. I'm just saying this is the wrong way to go about it. We had the whole world on our side. Every nation on this planet, with the exception of the one or two bad actors, everybody was with the United States. We could have squeezed them financially and diplomatically. There was no reason to go to war. There was no reason to send tanks and planes and bombs and soldiers. There never was from the very beginning. This was handled abominably And we're still there 18 years later. Can you believe it? Yep, that's right. 2001, October 7, the 18th anniversary of this horrendous, stupid, ridiculous war. God.
Yeah, there's no way to be like we said, no way to be lighthearted or flippant about this. This is just a sad and tragic thing, and it pisses me off.
Well, that's exactly right. Pisses me off, too. We're in agreement, fellas. Yeah, okay. We just got to, and now what to do now? You made this terrible situation. And so now, at the time, I think I was with you, Charles Purcell. I was adamant in my feeling that don't do this thing. Don't send the troops and the planes and the bombs. Don't do it. You're making a huge mistake. But now that we've done it, and it's 18 years later, I can't just as easily say, all right, well, just bring them on, bring everybody home right now. That's not as easy because of the mess you've created. Maybe it should be just as easy. I don't know. Maybe I've just lost some of my nerve from my younger days. But what to do now is just we've created this dilemma for ourselves as a nation. Oh, it's very sad. It is.
Yes, it is.
Okay, let's go on. It's This Week in History, October 7, 1996. Oh, God. Do I mention this?
What is it?
Fox News broadcasts for the first time.
Oh, no!
Oh, my goodness.
Oh, a date which will live in infamy.
The single most repugnant, corrupt, lying group of people in this country with a political agenda for one party.
October 7, 1996. Fox News broadcast for the first time. The 24-hour news channel with the slogan Fair and Balanced was created by Australian-American businessman and media tycoon Rupert Murdoch. Today it is one of the most watched news channels in the United States. Well, news, I don't know about that.
Yeah, right?
Okay.
News.
All right, 1996. Lord mercy. So what is that? 23 years. Seems like 50. Seems a lot longer than 23 years. Yeah.
So I just read an article that they're having big meetings over there at Fox News planning for the post-Trump era. They are pretty sure that he's going to have his big orange ass booted out of the White House over there at Fox News, and they're planning their strategy for how to handle that.
Yeah, I've read that too, the behind closed doors. Even Sean Hannity, the guy who's got his head up Agent Orange's butt further than anybody else over there.
The president did absolutely nothing wrong, nothing.
Even he is saying privately, it's being reported, that this looks like the end for Agent Orange. And so, yeah, they've got a plan how to handle it so as to keep their viewers happy and their advertisers happy. And
I'm a professional cowboy, and I use catheters. Been cowboying for 25 years. I've broken 14 bones, had 2 concussions, and a punctured lung. I know pain, and I don't want any more of it, especially when I calf.
Yeah, it's all about the bottom line over there. Well, you know what? And that's only partially true. Murdoch and the others, Roger Ailes and people like that.
They're rapists.
From the beginning. Sure, it was about money, of course. That goes without saying. But they also had real political, ideological commitments. It was like a religion to these guys. The whole conservative, ultra conservative point of view. That was real. That was legit. They weren't just. In other words, they wouldn't just put if left wing or liberal viewpoints would make them more money, they wouldn't just switch over to that. It was about the money, but it wasn't only about the money. They were true diehard ideologues as well. And I'm not sure the present makeup. We've had good reporting over the years, kind of insider scoops on what happens inside the halls of Fox News. I'm trying to think of the one fella's name who wrote the book.
The loudest voice in the room, how the brilliant, bombastic Roger Ailes built Fox News and divided a country. Gabriel Sherman is the author. He's here for his first television interview. We're pleased to have him. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
There have been a couple. Anyway, but I'm not sure what's going on inside the halls right now, except like you say, some reporting we're hearing is that they're making plans for post-Trump. They think the one thing they say in this reporting that I've read is that they've always believed they're bigger than any one president, and that's a frightening thing to think.
Oh, right?
But presidents will come and go, governments will come and go, Congresses will come and go, but they're bigger than this. And of course, they want to remain the big dog in broadcasting. So there they are. Fox News, 23 years. October 7, the big debut, right? Yep, October 7, 1996. Still on October 7, and our little review of This Week in History. One birth and one death. Born October 7, 1952, Vladimir Putin, fourth president and current president of Russia.
Happy birthday.
Oh, so happy birthday, Vladimir Putin. 1952. So what? That makes him 67 years old. 67 candles on the cake for Vladimir Putin.
Gee, I wonder what Agent Orange got him for his birthday. I'm sure he gave it a lot of thought. Gave him a nice phone call at least, I'll bet. A nice card with maybe some glitter inside.
And then we fell in love.
My best buddy, Vlad, happy 67th birthday and many more.
We fell in love.
Yeah, Vladimir Putin, 67 years old. When are we going to see any movement over there? You know, history is not static. Leaders come and go. The masses will arise occasionally and call for change. I'm only asking. I'm not prepping any big opinion piece here. I'm not about to rant about it because I honestly don't know. This is a genuine question. What's going on in Russia these days? I don't know. He seems to have a pretty good hold on things. The last I heard, his approval ratings, Putin's that is, are actually pretty good, at least according to, I don't know.
Yes, I don't know if that reporting is true or not, but yeah, that's the impression I get, that they've sort of, over there, a lot of them anyway, have sort of fallen into this idea that, okay, authoritarianism is just what we have now, and that's okay. The trains are running.
Yeah.
There aren't any long bread lines, so okay, I'm not going to make any upset about it.
I don't know. Again, we don't purport to be experts on this at all. If somebody knows what's going on over there, let us know. Yep. All I know is that Vladimir Putin is birthday, October 7th. Happy birthday. 67 years old. Going to go out horseback riding, and I'm sure he'll have a nice day. And he'll get a nice, loving phone call from his best buddy, Agent Orange. October 7th, anniversary of the death of Edgar Allan Poe. Born 1809 and died 1849, so 40 years old. We all know Edgar Allan Poe, American writer, editor, literary critic, and best known, of course, for his poetry and short stories. And best known to the current generation as the author of the Simpsons poem, The Nevermore.
All right. Every
Yeah.
classic reference now,
right.
a whole generation just knows it from The Simpsons.
Tell me what thy lordly name is on the nice plutonian shore.
Quoth the raven.
Eat my shorts. Bart, stop it. He says nevermore, and that's all he'll ever say. Okay.
Edgar Allan Poe was my first great love in literature. I guess, how old was I when I first read Edgar Allan Poe? Just a kid in school, freshman year in high school maybe. The first writer I really loved, and I felt moved and sometimes shaken, and great appreciation for that. I'm sure that's not a unique story. I would agree. Probably Edgar Allan Poe was probably a favorite of a lot of people, and maybe like you, the first time a writer really gets to you, because you've reached the age where you're reading assigned readings in school, things like The Last of the Mohicans and The Red Badge of Courage and Moby Dick and things you're expected to read. And then Edgar Allan Poe just reaches right into your heart and squeezes it in so many different ways. Yeah, he was a special, wonderful, beautiful talent.
Yeah, Edgar Allan Poe. So the anniversary of his death. And I don't know too much about him. He had a pretty bad... He was in a bad way, wasn't he?
Yeah.
As far as I know.
Yeah.
You know, he never really did have a lot of success. If I speak out of turn here, let me know. But as far as I know, he didn't have a whole lot of success. Financially, he struggled a lot. And he suffered.
Here you go. I'm looking this up right now. On October 3rd, 1849, Poe was found delirious on the streets of Baltimore, in great distress and in need of immediate assistance, according to Joseph W. Walker, who found him. He was taken to Washington Medical College, where he died on Sunday, October 7, 1849, at 5 o'clock in the morning. He was not coherent long enough to explain how he came to be in his dire condition, and oddly was wearing clothes that were not his own. He is said to have repeatedly called out the name Reynolds on the night before his death, though it is unclear to whom he was referring. Some sources say that Poe's final words were, "Lord, help my poor soul." All medical records have been lost, including his death certificate. So there it is. And none of us here are going to pretend to be a Poe expert at all, by any stretch. We don't know about Edgar Allan Poe. We're not historians. But we loved his writing, especially as kids. A great discovery that, that you can do that. A writer can do that. Wow, I didn't know a writer could do that. So Edgar Allan Poe, This Week in History, October 7, 1849, we lost him. This Week in History, born October 9th, 1940, John Lennon. Singer-songwriter, musician, and original member, founder of the Beatles.
People say I'm crazy, doing what I'm doing.
Oh, we love John. We love John, and it came. I think it came so clear through the years, as the four of them, John, Paul, George, and Ringo, established their own stories and their own life histories. That John was the one. He was the driving force. He was the heart and soul. Of course, Paul continues today to be this sort of effervescent font of joy and love, and that's fine. But John was the real deal, right?
Yep.
He had a little bit of a darker side.
Oh, yeah.
A more holistic side to him, I think.
Yeah.
And then as the popular personas go, George was the more spiritual of the group, but I think they all picked up on that, and John is included.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And then, of course, Ringo was the happy-go-lucky fella behind the drums, who was finally, I think, over the years getting his due as a fine musician and a great, great drummer.
Yeah, right?
But, of course, John, he in a world of his own, and then his life with Yoko and the peace activism and all of that.
Oh, sure. And, of course, there aren't many people who have been examined more than those four guys. And so we know a lot about him, and John had some very troubled times as well. And as he admitted himself before he died that he abused women, and and he had his own troubles, and of course with drug abuse and things like that. But what an interesting guy, and what a beautiful guy, and what a wonderful legacy of songs. And,
yeah.
Sure. John Lennon, born October 9, 1940. So that means he would be, here we go with math again. Not good with the math. So he would be 79 years old.
Yep, 79.
Happy birthday, John Lennon, 79 years old. Wow.
Yeah, how about that? 79. While we're on October 9, 1978, died Jacques Brel, the Belgian singer-songwriter and actor. Best known by most of us, I think, because of the very popular musical review of his songs. Jacques Brel is alive and well and living in Paris. Oh, sure, I think we've all heard of that. You've heard of that, haven't you, Chucky Bucky?
Oh yeah, Jacques Brel is alive and well and living in Paris. That was the first time I ever heard the name Jacques Brel, and I think a lot of people probably too. That brought him back into, the popular consciousness. Sure, that was the big musical review. When was that?
That was, let's see, I looked it up. Original 1968 off-Broadway production. Jacques Brel is alive and well and living in Paris. It ran for 4 years and to great success, and then productions internationally for years and years afterwards, as well as, I'm reading again, a West End production and off-Broadway revival, among others, a film adaptation released in 1975. So, yeah, and all of that while he was indeed still alive and well and living in Paris. All of that happened, again, original 1968, the film release in 1975, a lot of productions in between, and all of that while he was still with us. Jacques Brel, no longer alive and well and living in Paris as of October 9, 1978. Jacques Brel.
All right, then.
And one other death, and this is way too big to get into. And again, we don't ever pretend to be experts around here. Che Guevara. 1967. See, now right there, is it Che or is it Che?
It's Che. You should say Che, Charles Purcell.
Well, okay, Che. Died 1967 at age 39. Of course, born in Argentina, but well-traveled throughout South and Central America. The Cuban Revolution.
Oh, central to the Cuban Revolution.
And others.
Sure.
You guys knew he was a doctor as well, right? A physician?
Oh, sure. Yeah, I knew that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I did. I think I know that. But mostly a revolutionary, an intellectual, theorist, diplomat. October 9, 1967. Captured and injured, and he was executed in kind of a grisly way. It was Bolivian troops that wound up taking him out. And the powers that be wanted to make it look like he was killed in battle, and so they shot him a few times to make it look like he suffered, and it was a horrible, horrible way to go. And since then, of course, has become a symbol for revolution.
Oh, sure, the famous photograph.
Oh, right.
That's been made into like silkscreen T-shirts and posters and everything you can think of.
Yeah, look that up, Charles Purcell. Who was the photographer on that? Yeah, I am. Let's see. I'm looking it up. Iconic photograph of Marxist revolutionary Che Guevara taken by Alberto Korda. K-O-R-D-A. Alberto Korda. It was captured on March 5th, 1960 in Havana, Cuba, at a memorial service for victims of an explosion, a La Cubra explosion. By the end of the 1960s, the image, in conjunction with Guevara's subsequent actions and eventual execution, helped solidify the charismatic and controversial leader as a cultural icon. Korda has said that at the moment he shot the picture, he was drawn to Guevara's facial expression, which showed absolute implacability. Implacability? I don't even know what that means.
Implacability? You don't know what that means?
Well, no. Do you know what it means?
Not exactly. Charles Purcell, what does implacability mean?
It kind of means you'll never be satisfied. Like you're going to continue the fight. You're implacable. You can't be convinced that everything's fine. I think it's something like that. You're not going to calm me down. You're not going to tell me everything's cool.
Yeah, you can't be placated. Oh, okay. Yeah, I see that.
Okay, so and I've read that he was sort of famous for having like a presence about him. I guess maybe this happens when you become larger than life. The stories rise up that maybe they're true or maybe they aren't true. But I've heard a couple different people who've met him in his life say how impressed they were with just his presence. His piercing eyes that would look right through you. And And I don't know how, if that's true or not, but several sources that I've read say that.
Yeah, he was, charismatic is a word that gets thrown around, and some people have it and some people don't, and I think this is the very definition of a guy who had the charisma. And not only that, just the genuine, implacable, if you will, dedication to his revolutionary philosophies. And he's described now as a controversial figure, but I don't know. I think we're coming around to, at least certainly people on the left see him as a great hero. And we'll see how history goes on. It's been, what did you say the year was there, Charles Purcell? 1967. So, oh gosh, all this math we have to do today. 1967. Okay, what's that? That'd be
52 years ago.
Okay, so only 52 years ago. And in the, in the whole book of history, 52 years isn't that long a time.
Sure.
And so maybe still not quite settled. I think it's going to settle on the side of praise for Che. I think the people of the left will come out on top of this one.
Yep.
I think he will be.
Yep.
And it might take another 50 years or another 100 years. Again, like I say, 52 years isn't that long when you're talking about history.
Sure.
So he's still going to be controversial maybe for another few years, and over time, I think there'll be a consensus that he was indeed a laudable and heroic figure.
I think you're right there, Uncle Chuck.
And finally, one more birthday here on This Week in History. October 10, 1969, 50 years ago. You guys guess whose birthday it is?
Ooh, I don't know. Who is it?
Brett Favre.
Oh, Brett Favre, 50 years old. Put him out there. Put him back on the field. I bet he could still play.
I bet he could too.
Right?
50.
Sure.
Age 50, Brett Favre. Oh, he brought us a lot of fun, brought us a lot of heartache.
Oh, Brett
Favre. What a character he was.
Yes. Oh.
All right, so happy birthday, Brett. 50 years old, October 10.
Happy birthday.
1969.
Right. Good. Go Pack.
That's This Week in History. Ladies and gentlemen, Chucky Bucky and Uncle Chuck. Chuck and Chucky!
Okay, then. Thanks.
All right.
Had a good time.
Thank you.
See you in the history books.
Okay. Thanks there, Charles Purcell. We'll see you next time.
All right, see you guys.
It's The Log. I'm Charles Purcell. I want to close the show with some information for you, some very important information. Last week, we devoted the entire hour to climate crisis, and we won't let a single show go by without at least a mention, and usually more. But we devoted the whole week last week, as you'll recall, to Greta Thunberg and her address to the United Nations, as well as activist Chris Hedges and his essay about the need for mass civil disobedience. We can't rely on Greta. We can't make her just a feel-good story and then go back to our daily lives and act as though, well, then that's it. We can't just be happy and teary-eyed about her great work. No, no, no. And then Chris Hedges' main point that the elites, the politicians, the CEOs are not going to act. It is entirely up to us. So, Extinction Rebellion, we've spoken about before. They've got a plan, at least an event coming up, and I'd like to share it with you, and here it is. Extinction Rebellion. Go to their website, rebellion.earth, and here's what you'll find. International Rebellion begins 7 October 2019. 60 cities worldwide. Starting Monday, October 7, for 2 weeks, Extinction Rebellion and allied movements will gather in major cities across the globe and continue to rebel against the world's governments for their criminal inaction on the climate and ecological crisis. To governments of the world, we declared a climate and ecological emergency. You did not do enough. To everybody else, rebel. You are called on. Something is happening. You know it is. You can feel it. You are called on to be part of it. Because time is running out. We're on the brink of extinction. The governments are doing nothing. Businesses are doing nothing. It's up to you now. This isn't a distant apocalypse. Scientists are telling us that we're 18 months from a tipping point from which there will be no coming back. It's not going to happen to somebody else. It's going to happen to you. We must rebel. You can't look to us or Greta for this. You have to look inside yourself and rebel. Starting on October 7th for 2 weeks, Extinction Rebellion is calling an international rebellion. Together, we will peacefully occupy the centers of power and shut them down until governments act on the climate and ecological emergency. Leave your desk, invite your boss, walk out of school, switch off the TV, put down your phone, get on the streets, and bring everybody. You are called on. If you do one thing with your life, do this. Not later, now. And then the post closes with 6 simple points. 1. Share this event on social media. Even if you don't post frequently, it's one of the most effective ways to raise the alarm. 2. Link with your local group. These small units are vital to organizing during the rebellion. 3. Find your role. The rebellion is for everybody, not just those willing to risk arrest. We need cooks, admin legends, action designers, sanitation pros, financial whizzes, social media gurus, prominent spokespeople, legal observers, builders and fixers, musicians, logistics experts, and loads more to help keep rebels safe, organized, and fed on the street. Explore roles here. Number 4, donate. If you're short on time but can offer money, donate to the rebellion. 5, stay up to date. And 6, bring yourself. This rebellion needs everybody. If you think you have nothing to contribute, think again. Bring yourself. That will be enough. See you on the streets. So that's Extinction Rebellion. And their website, rebellion.earth. And other links to more information there. So, starting Monday, October 7th, for 2 weeks, International Rebellion. I'm going to be a part of it, and I hope you will too. It's a 3-pronged attack, you guys. It's our own personal lives, it's lobbying the elites, and, most importantly, taking action. This kind of action. Mass civil disobedience. Yes, we are at this point. Yes, we are. Don't think for a second that we're not. All right, good luck. I love you. This episode of The Log is available right now wherever you find your podcasts, including Apple Podcasts, iHeart, YouTube, and the podcast source. Enter Charles Burcell Presents in the search window. Or best yet, go to charlesburcell.com. There you'll find this and all the other series in the podcast family. Follow, comment, and contact me on Facebook and Twitter. Thanks to our flagship terrestrial station, River West Radio, riverwestradio.com. Theme music composed and performed by Peter Donalds. From the New Arts and Media Studios in Milwaukee, I'm Charles Burcell.